When you talk about what's good for the environment, unfortunately this so often happens, and we've done it today so far, but it's being done across this country. When you say environment, people only hear climate change. Like that's the only environmental issue there is.
Yeah.
There is air particle pollution, there's water pollution, there is how we treat our oceans, there's biodiversity, deforestation, and there is climate change. There's a bunch of different issues. And if a person was genuinely motivated by interest in the environment, I assume they'd be interested in all of them. And yet every environmental discussion only seems to have one topic. How quickly can we make poor Australians pay more for their electricity? I mean, sorry, how quickly can we solve climate change? I mean, it seems to me that if we wanted to address environmental issues, we might start by looking at the environmental issues that are currently most costly and devastating to the world. Every year, this isn't in Australia, we're immune from most of this, but worldwide, every year worldwide, millions of people die from air particle pollution. Not from CO2, not from a greenhouse gas, air particle pollution. They breathe in the particles, they die. Not immediately on the spot, right? They get asthma, they get lung cancer, they get various other diseases from the air particle pollution. That is a much more solvable environmental issue. It's a much more immediate one, and it's killing real people that we care about, or we should care about, or some people wearing green pretend they care about. They are real people and are dying, and yet these conversations get so monopolized with CO2. And I'm not suggesting that CO2 is not a problem, right? The globe is warming, we're contributing to it, that's not going to be a good thing. I also don't think it's going to be a catastrophe, and the number of people dying from climate change is absolutely dwarfed by the number of people dying from air particle pollution, polluted water, and various other real ongoing problems we're seeing day to day. If you care about the totality of these environmental issues, then I would put to you that the most important thing we can do, historically proven, theoretically sound, but more importantly, historically proven, the most important thing you could do to address most of these environmental issues is to help poor people be less poor. That's right. And I would have thought that's a good thing to do anyway. But assuming you don't think it's a good thing to do anyway, it's probably the best single thing you could do to help improve the environment across at least the 5 issues I mentioned before: air particle pollution, water pollution, the oceans, biodiversity / forests, and climate change. Of those 5, at least 4 out of those 5, all of the non-climate ones, are noticeably, and we have facts, we have evidence for this, they get better when we get richer. There's a concept called the environmental Kuznets curve. And the idea here is when you go from dirt poor and you start making a bit more money, you tend to mess up the environment a bit more, right? Because you're starting to make a bit more impact on the world. And as you get richer, you then start to reach a certain point where you can now feed your kids, you've got a roof over your head, and you start caring about more things. And what happens is as you get richer, people collectively start caring more about the environmental issues, they come up with solutions, and they start solving them. This is not just theoretical. We've got an abundance of evidence for the environmental Kuznets curve in the first 4 out of those 5 things. There's a possibility there's going to be an environmental Kuznets curve on climate change as well, but that is still very much an open discussion, and we haven't hit the point yet. But on the other 4, the ones that are actually killing actual people, we know that when an average country gets to an average GDP of about $5,000 per person, deforestation starts reversing. We know that when you get to about $15,000 to $20,000 per person, so that's a bit more, but that's about the middle income, air particle pollution and water pollution starts reversing. China has a very deserved reputation for being an atrociously polluted country, and that's because they went from being dirt poor up to middle income, and as they developed, they were putting out a lot of air particle pollution, they were putting out a lot of water pollution. That was happening, and it was killing, I said millions of people before were dying of air particle pollution. 1 million of those alone every year in China. Right, that was happening. Here's the thing now, China has hit the inflection point on the environmental Kuznets curve. They hit it a while ago. Right? The deforestation started reversing a long time ago. The air particle pollution has improved 16% over the last decade. Right? The best thing you could do to resolve these environmental issues is help poor people get richer. And the best way to help poor people get richer is to give them cheap, reliable energy. Sure. So the best thing we could be doing is not working out which is the best low-carbon, cheap, reliable energy that's on the table. If we genuinely care about those poor people and the global environmental problems, the question is simply, what is the cheapest, reliable energy, writ large? And for some countries, that'll be nuclear, and God love it. In some countries, that may be fossil fuels. And if that helps bring poor people out of poverty, and that helps get people past the environmental Kuznets curve, it's still a good thing.